So how do you know how to pick a good color palette? Well, today we're going to talk about that in today's video. So we're going to get into that right now. All right, so the products I'm going to use the new Easter Bunny Stamp Set from Rabbit Hole Designs, and I'm using the Botanical Garden Paper Pad from Echo Park. We're going to start off by coloring our little bunny rabbit. It's a kid actually dressed up as a bunny rabbit. The Easter Bunny Stamp Set is designed by Agatha Pop, and her images are great for coloring. So we're going to get into this in just a second. I'm going to start off by coloring the skin, and I'm using a combination of Art and Fly and Copic skin tone markers for that. I'm using Y811, E11, E19, E00, and E000 for the skin. All right, so picking a good color palette is a difficult thing sometimes. Sometimes you don't know where to go, what to do, or you're just totally lost. And sometimes it just happens, y'all. Sometimes you just have to figure out a way to do this. And the easiest way I have found to find my color palettes is usually I will start with designer series paper or pattern paper. And it's easier. Let's get back to the card for a second. All right, I'm going to color in the hair and the little brush in his little hand. I'm using BR1 and BR2 and Ohuhu markers for that. And the rest of my coloring is done with the Ohuhu markers. So picking a color palette. The easiest way to do that is by, like I said, your pattern paper. And which is what I have done here. I've picked out colors that will match my pattern paper. And what I do is I will sit down with a piece of paper. I pick my patterns first. My focal image, which is what's on the screen right now. That's going to be my focal image on my card. And I've went through and picked out markers that match those. So I've sat down, did color swatches, and picked out those colors that I liked in that pattern and matched those to my markers. So that's one way. That's the easiest way to do it. Like if you notice what we're coloring now is all the little oranges. All those orange tones can be found in that, or dark peach tones and orangey tones can be found in that pattern paper. If you really get close to the orange and peach flowers in that paper, you will find those orange tones in that pattern. So that's where I got that at. And by the way, I'm using Y5, Y10, YR090, and Y4. I used Y5, Y10, and YR090 on the paint and the bow tie to color that, and I will, get to the carrot, we're going to add in Y4. So we're going to go back and use those same colors, and this is where you keep your palette cohesive, in case you were wondering. If you will put those colors in different places in your coloring, it will keep your whole card cohesive. Like we're doing now with the carrots, I'm using the same Y5, Y10, YR90, but I'm adding in that Y4 to brighten things up just a little bit, and it changes the look of it. It's not the same colors that we used when we did the paint on the little bunny, but it adds in one of those other tones, peachy tones from the pattern paper, and you can really see it right there in the top left, and that one by the real burgundy and white flower. You can really see those orange tones and peach tones in that. All right, so we're going to color up those the rest of the way. So we've talked about pulling colors from your pattern paper, and you're going to see this through this whole video, how I've pulled those colors, and they all match that pattern paper. That's the easiest way to find your color palette. So for our greens, we're using G470, GY2, GY3, and GY4, and I use different combinations of those colors, again, on the tops of the carrots. Like for the first one I'm coloring right now, I use G470, GY2, and GY3 as my lightest color. For the next one, I'm going to use GY2, GY3, and GY4. So I've got those same colors, but it keeps it cohesive for my pattern paper because that's the color palette that I found, those colors that matched in that color palette on that paper. That's why I like using my pattern paper to find my color palettes, because it keeps it super easy, because the company's done all the work. So I know all these colors will go together because the company did all the work and put them in that pattern paper so they all look cohesive. So for the next carrot, I'm using all 4 of those colors, the G470, GY2, GY3, and GY6, and it gives it a completely different look, and it keeps it a little bit different than our other 2 sets of carrots, or our other 2 carrots. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that out, color that with the GY4, and we're going to get a drink, and then we're going to move on and start coloring our bunny. For our bunny, I picked more of that burgundy-ish, pinkish shade in the flowers. So for that, I picked R8, R6, R4, and RV330. And those oranges, or reds, I'm sorry, I don't know where I got oranges at. Reds are on the more pinky side. And so it goes along with the highlights in the pattern paper and keeps it nice and cohesive with our ultimate look. So if you're struggling with color palettes, this is the one easiest way to do it. Your next option would be to get something like the color cubes, and use those as color palettes. We have a whole series on that right here. So a whole monthly series that you can find. I'm using color palettes used based off the color cube. You can find that there. I'll try to link it below if I remember. So I'm just blending those out. Again, I started with R8, which is my more of a burgundy, dark burgundy shade, dark pink burgundy. I don't really know what you call it. It's more like the red on the polka dots, or red on that, darkest red on that flower. You know, I haven't seen the polka dot yet. Don't pay attention to me. Don't listen to that. You'll see that. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Anyway, now that I've had my Wizard of Oz moment. All right, so we're going to blend that R8 out with the R6, and that is a little bit lighter than that burgundy, pinkish shade, and then we're going to blend that out with R4. And if you notice around the face, since I'm outlining that with the R6, I don't want it super dark because it is going to be, I'm assuming his little costume has a little fold over on his head because it's a hoodie. And I'm just going to have that little shadow there. So I'm putting in the R4 now, and then I'm going to blend that out with the RV330, which is more on that red, violet, pink side. And we're going to do the body the same way. And speaking of the body, for the little thing on his chest, I used WG050 and E000 because I wanted it to have a little bit of that white, the smallest white flower in that paper. It kind of has those tones. It's a little bit more yellow, but I thought that the WG worked great for that. So that's why I chose those colors. Again, as you can see during the whole coloring process, we have used this pattern paper for the whole palette. It makes it super easy. The only thing I didn't use, well, we did because we stamped in a black, so there's our black on there. We're going to color the watering can, and I'm doing WG09, WG070, WG050, and that was WG090, not 09. All right, so I've set and fussy cut all those out. We're going to come in and do our other elements of the card. I'm using Speckled Egg, Rustic Wilderness, and Twisted Citron. I'm going to use this die cut that I have of a cloud, and I'm going to just use that to put clouds in my little focal panel here. And I'm just sliding it over. I just happened to use it on another project that y'all will see later on in the month. So that's why it's on my desk. So we're going to do our greens. And I went with the lighter shades of green on the grass for the die cuts. And this is just a die cut that I had in my stash. So it tied in everything. Now, this stamp set just released today from Rabbit Hole Design, and they are currently doing, until I think it's the 7th, they are doing a, they're giving away 2 vouchers, $25 vouchers. You can go to my blog. I will link that post below from this, where I posted that this morning. 2 $25 vouchers for anyone that leaves a comment on the blog posts. If you hop along the blog post and blog hop and leave comments, then they'll pick one winner from the blog, and then they're picking one winner from the Instagram account. And all that information is on my blog. So there's 2 chances to win 2 $25 gift certificates for just leaving a comment and heart and following the Rabbit Hole Design on their Instagram account. Super easy. Y'all know I like some free stuff. And anytime you can take a chance and win a voucher for some free products, it's great. All right, so now I'm going to mat that. I've added my grass on. I'm matting that onto a piece of the orange smooth paper pad. It's from scrapbook.com. It is the Joyful Smooth Cardstock paper pad. It's an A2 size. It just happened to be the perfect little orange for that card, and I'm adding a piece of paper of that same pattern paper to the inside of my card. And I'm just double checking my focal panel here, because that's why I had to cut down the orange piece. I cut it wrong. Just double checking my cuts. And I'm going to add that to our top folding card base. And then we're going to add in that reddish color paper. It has some little polka dots. It's nice. It's not quite tone on tone, but it's close. And then I'm adding in that sub pattern paper there. So we're going to take that and add on there. And we're going to take, and you can see how cohesive everything's looking by picking that pattern color palette from the pattern paper. And the only additional colors I added was the tumble glass and the speckled egg for the sky. But you kind of have to have a blue sky. I mean, it looked kind of funny if you had like a pink sky. Well, not really. I mean, you could have a pink side. Depends on the time of day, I guess. All right, so we're going to pop our little Easter bunny up on some 1 millimeter foam tape from scrapbook.com. I just wanted to give it a little bit of a lift. I do have to cut this down into small little pieces, but it's one of my favorite adhesives lately. I'm going to add some liquid glue behind that so I get it nice and have a little chance to move it around. I thought about sticking him under the grass, but I decided to just put him on top. So now I'm going to attach that, and I'm going to use 2 millimeter foam tape for that, also from scrapbook.com. So we're just adding in that 2 millimeter foam tape. I'm just going to cut little pieces and put behind my focal panel. And this brings us to another problem. What happens when your card is there's so much on the front? What do you do with your sentiment? We'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm going to peel off those foam backings and add a little liquid glue on that panel. Since our color palette is all nice and pretty now, and we have a nice little cute little character all colored up. And if you notice, I did add some rosy cheeks. I forgot to mention that. I did R21 and R21 and R088 for the blush. And I also used those same colors on his ear. So I'm going to pop in my the large carrot on the bottom and the little paint splatter on the grass, and then I'm going to add in those other 2 carrots on the side here. That keeps our color palette going on. We're going to use that same pattern, that same smooth cardstock to stamp our sentiment on, and this is where the whole sentiment issue started. I got it stamped and went to try to put it on the front of the card and realized it really wasn't a good spot for it without covering up all my pretties. And I didn't really want to cover up the pretties, so I'm trying to audition it in different places, trying to see if I can get it to work, and it just doesn't work, does it, y'all? Let me know in the comments if you thought it could go on the front, because I don't think it can. But anyway, you can see here, I'm just moving it around, trying to figure out where the best place for it, and ultimately I decided the best place was probably on the inside. because it's going to tie in our orange, and I'm just going to line that up on the inside of the card and pop it in there using my T ruler. And I'm going to come in now and add some highlights. I was asked the other day about adding highlights. I like to add my highlights on the darkest side of my colored images, and then sometimes I'll pop it in just a little bit on the lighter side. But anywhere that I think a light would be hitting is where I'm going to put my highlight. That's the easiest way to put it. Taylor Expressions has a great download on their website for free about adding highlights. So I would totally check that out. All right, so now we're going to come in and add a little shimmer. I'm using my Spectrum Noir clear shimmer pen. I'm just adding it to the orange elements. That's because orange is my favorite color, I decided it needed some shimmer. All right, so there's a card. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And here's a closer look, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys. Love you.